You saw the review last week. Now we pit the Baleno against the i20. The latest from Honda is a big bike, the 650F. Here's the review coming up on CNB. And a little glimpse of the Great Overland Adventure with none other than Lewis Hamilton. Hello there and welcome to a new episode of CNB here on the NDTV network. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Patankar. Thank you for joining us. I am this week coming to you from rural Pennsylvania in the northeastern United States. Not the typical kind of location that you expect from us here on the Car and Bike Show now, is it? What brings me here is not a new car, not a new bike, but the Great Overland Adventure. It's this mammoth journey that we've begun a few weeks ago. Some of you already know about it, and we've also started bringing it to you on the NDTV network last week. So that's why I'm here right now. I promise you that we've not been driving these cars on railway lines everywhere. We've been pretty much on the highway, but couldn't resist this little bit of an excursion right now to give you a glimpse of the kind of experiences we are bringing to you on this new show on NDTV. Now that of course is the GLA back there. That's the car I've been driving this morning. You'll keep getting little glimpses of the GLA adventure right here on CNB as well, but that's not why we are coming to you this week. You want to get on with that top story that you've got a glimpse of already, so I won't waste another minute. The Hyundai i20 is the big dominant player in the premium hatch space, really owns that segment, and now you have that massive new challenger that's come along, the Maruti Suzuki Baleno. So which car has the upper hand? Let's pit them against each other and find out. The Maruti Suzuki Baleno launches next week to be a crucial launch for the market and for Hyundai too. No, I'm not accidentally saying Hyundai instead of Maruti Suzuki. Hyundai has had an almost monopolistic run with its i20, hasn't it? Though the Honda Jazz has also done rather well since its arrival. Now the question is, will the Baleno expand the segment or eat into the share of these two cars, particularly the i20, which sells almost an average of 10,000 units a month? The i20 is the car to beat. A big hit, this is also one of the cars that Suzuki will have to contend with when the Baleno launches in Europe next year. The i20 is bold, roomy, and has the best driving character of any Hyundai hatch so far, ever. Now, the Baleno isn't obviously good looking, but there are a few cues that have been thrown in which make it look modern enough, and what Suzuki is calling that liquid flow concept is the part that I really like. I mentioned this before on the show as well. It gives you a sense of space and size and also style along the side because it gives it a distinct sort of a look. It also keeps the windowsill kind of low, which is nice, and even though the car doesn't have the longest wheelbase in its class, just look at it and you think, hey, that's got to be the biggest. And the same thing continues back here because you've got this muscle that bulges outwards, which implies a lot of cargo space as well. Again, it doesn't have the biggest boot in its class, but when you look at it, you think, I'm sure it can swallow up a lot of luggage. Good visual cues to have. The second thing which I do like is accentuating all of that. It's the use of this quarter glass. Now, a lot of cars have that blacked out element at the back, or they have a lot of thick metal. This is smart because the quarter glass comes after the door finishes, and which means that from the outside, again, the car looks nice and big, stretched, ample, and from the inside you get a nice airy sense of space thanks to that little extra light element. So very smartly done, and kudos on that particular design element. Where the car could have done a lot better is in the face. It could have been a lot sexier looking to make it look more appealing and more contemporary. Of course, the top end version does look smarter because you have that chrome element that comes through the headlamp, and it does have the LEDs, and it's a projector light. So overall tends to look a little smarter, a little bit Kizashi-like in its look. But yeah, the car could have added a little dose of sexiness, couldn't it? On that is where I turn to the competition. The Jazz from Honda definitely looks modern and very, very new age. The Fiat's Punto Evo is the beauty, and then you've got the i20, which hands down remains the most stylish car in its segment. Now, it was with good reason that we also awarded this the NDTV Design of the Year 2015 and continues to reign as we speak. But that's, I think, the big differentiator between these two cars then. The i20, when you look at it, instantly gives you that oomph factor. There's a wow kind of a sense. The first time you see this car, you stop and look at it again. That's what Hyundai wanted. That's what Hyundai got, and which is perhaps one of the big reasons why the i20 has been so successful. The Baleno, very different looking and instantly implies a lot of space. It looks more ample. Visually, the two cars are so distinctly different. That's what's going to go for the Baleno. It's going to be the car that people are going to look at and say, practical family hatch. Makes sense to buy this car. This one is for those who want that extra dose of style. In our last comparison, the i20 had managed to just about beat the Jazz and retain segment benchmark status, and so we're sticking with just the i20 for today's battle. The one thing that went against the i20 was the lack of gadgets that the Jazz had, but now, just in time for Diwali, and perhaps more importantly the Baleno launch, Hyundai has reworked the i20's interior to offer better colors, better finish, and the all-important touchscreen, which also has navigation. Now this allows the i20 to once again seem fully loaded. Now onto the Baleno. Maruti's been really brave to go with an all-black interior theme. In India, everybody seems to be obsessed with beige. And remember, when you use dark colors, it makes the space look a little smaller. Even though the black color is all around, it's not two-tone, that's the car's trump card. You get a tremendous sense of space, as I've been saying, and when you're in the car, more so. Good headroom, excellent legroom, and a nice airy feel to the cabin because of all the glass around and even the lower window height. I think all of that really adds up. So, very smart move on that front. I think a lot of families are going to like that. Rear legroom on the Baleno is more than the i20's, but surprisingly, it doesn't have a rear AC vent, which the i20 does have. The i20's rising belt line makes the rear seem more cramped because the window is a bit high. The Baleno's climate control system and in fact the overall central console layout looks nicer and trendier too. The Baleno offers 4 trims and all have dual airbags and ABS as standard. That's terrific. The i20 has 6 variants and neither are standard. It offers a driver side airbag in 2 variants and dual airbags in just 2, while ABS is available in 4 of the 6 variants. The Baleno has a very smartly designed and sexy looking instrument cluster. The Zeta and Alpha top trims also have the really cool TFT display trip computer with a great interface and even the real-time torque and power output display that we showed you last week. The i20's instrument cluster is informative but boring by comparison. Both cars have touchscreen infotainment and navigation, but in both, that's only on the top trim. The Baleno bumps up the cool quotient though with the Apple CarPlay USB. The top trims also give you keyless entry with a start-stop button, reverse camera, electric mirrors, and a tilt and telescopic steering. Both cars offer diesel and petrol engines. The i20 is now in desperate need of having an automatic option, and now it will need that to also be a fuel-efficient one, since the Jazz and now the Baleno have a CVT petrol. The Baleno has the Fiat-derived 1.3-litre DDIS engine that's a little gem. Tuned to deliver 74 bhp, it works very well. The i20 has the more powerful 1.4-litre U2 CRDI with a lot more torque, And so it makes you wonder why Maruti didn't opt for the 90 bhp version of that 1.3-litre engine. The answer probably lies in these figures. The much higher segment best mileage claim gives Maruti Suzuki an edge, doesn't it? On the petrol side, the two seem more evenly matched, almost figure for figure. And even though both use a 5-speed manual gearbox, as I said before, the Baleno has a CVT option, which also delivers the same mileage as the petrol. I have both cars with me in their diesel avatars, as that will likely remain the higher selling engine variant for both of them. The i20 has a mature feel to it, coming across as very well built and engineered. That is what had really impressed me about this second generation car when it replaced the first i20. Now the i20 definitely handles better and has a great ride quality, but overall the DDIS unit is more fun, it's punchier and it's more sporty, and so I've had more fun driving this car, even though there are of course some great things about the way that the i20 feels on the road. Now there is something to be said about the fact that Suzuki has done a good job with mating this 5-speed manual gearbox to this engine. I've already talked about the immense amount of torque that comes out of this motor, and given that when you're coasting along on the highway especially and you're getting all of this great torque from the motor, once you cross 2000 RPM, you start to get the sense that, hey, you know what, it could have used a 6th gear. So I suspect that was done from a cost point of view to keep the same 5-speed gearbox on both the petrol and the diesel. But having said that, yeah, it could have definitely used a 6-speed, and that's an advantage that the Hyundai definitely has. That is the only real disappointment. The car's steering and sporty ride make up for it though. The diesel Baleno feels planted and the steering and suspension feel solid. The obvious tilt of the suspension setup towards comfort will go down well with Indian buyers, though the i20 also enjoys good ride quality, as I said. The availability of torque as low as 2000 RPM in the Baleno and 1500 RPM on the i20 mean both cars maneuver quickly and effortlessly through city traffic. The i20's gearbox comes across as more refined though. And that is more or less true on the petrol side too. The Baleno does seem zippier, and this is no surprise considering Suzuki's prowess with small displacement petrol engines. So what's the verdict? The Baleno appears to hold an edge in this contest, though I don't have the benefit of comparing prices as the Baleno only launches next week. But my gut tells me that Maruti Suzuki won't make an S-Cross-like mistake and will be aggressive with Baleno pricing, which may even undercut the i20 substantially. If that is true, then I have to say the Baleno is the winner of this contest. I shall revise that statement once the prices are out though.
The Great Overland Adventure is not just about discovering new places, but also meeting people who share our passion for driving and adventure. But little did we expect we would be meeting Mercedes Formula One drivers Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg on this epic journey.
So these guys are doing something quite historic, and it'll be great to have you a part of it.
Both drivers shared similar levels of excitement as we spoke about our 6-continent journey with the GLA. When Formula One racing stars offer free driving tips on keeping concentration during long road trips, we just soaked it all in happily. Meeting Hamilton and Rosberg was special, not just for the obvious reasons, but it was interesting to see these racing aces starstruck with the magnitude of this GLA adventure.
You can get more details on the Great Overland Adventure on our website. That's carandbike.com/GLA Adventure. Lots of pictures there and some interesting videos as well for you to take a look at. Keep your feedback coming, not just on the GLA Adventure, but on CNB as well. And you may have noticed with our new look, we also have Sector Snapshot for you running through the show. So all the top news comes your way as well. Let's take a short break here on CNB. We're back with more. Welcome back to CNB. Let's talk about that bike from Honda now. The CBR 650F is a bike that generated a lot of chatter and there's lots of hype around it, but does it justify this hefty 7.3 lakh rupee price tag? That's the big question that we had when we went into this review. Bala rode the bike and you can take a look at it, and in case you're wondering why I've switched suddenly to this red hot number, well, that's one of the perks of the job, isn't it? Got a chance to quickly check out the new John Cooper Works edition of the Mini Cooper that's just been launched here in the US. So feast your eyes on that just for a little glimpse of it, and then take a look at the bike from Honda.
The 150 and 250 CBRs have given Honda a good indicator at India's growing need for sports bikes, and so the CBR 650F arrives with huge expectations. But the launch of the bike in August turned out to be a disappointment, with the ex-showroom price of 7.3 lakh rupees despite the bike being a CKD. The CBR 650F gets your attention instantly with its striking looks of a sports tourer. The design is accentuated with the racing tricolor graphics and the massive rear tire. So there's some muscle here and there, but all done in line with the dominant sporty design.
Now, the Honda CBR 650F does give you those classic sports bike looks with the large fairing around it, but with a dash of aggression thrown in. You've got those nice bold headlamps, the V-shaped headlamps right up in front, followed by this fairly large visor, which not only adds to the looks but also gives you that bit of functionality, especially when the bike is at higher speeds. Also, you've got this nice big muscular tank on it which flows well into the design, and it's a fairly nice and easy riding stance with a low seat.
There's nothing wrong with being classic as long as you're not boring. The twin-pod instrument cluster is all digital, maybe a bit basic, but we don't mind. At least it's not trying too hard to impress. The switches and control have great feel with impressive plastic quality. Get the Honda CBR 650 on the road, and that's when it hits you that this motorcycle is one of the smoothest performers in this segment.
Now, the inline 4-cylinder engine on the Honda CBR 650F does impress with its refinement levels. Of course, that was expected from this 4-cylinder engine, but the exhaust itself doesn't really indicate how powerful the engine really is in terms of pure performance. It's quick, it's agile, it's quick off the blocks, but still with smooth and linear acceleration.
There's lots of refined power on offer from the 649cc liquid-cooled engine with 85.3 bhp, mated to a 6-speed gearbox, performing well to keep things smooth even at low speeds. Push this bike on straight line speeds and the CBR 650F feels superbly planted, and having ABS as standard does add to the confidence. The bike handles well around corners too, without feeling too heavy at 215 kilos. For a company that has cracked the scooter and commuter bike segment in India, Honda's pricing of the CBR 650F comes as a shocker. It is a motorcycle that doesn't overawe you with performance or quick throttle response. It is a calm and collected sports tourer that any rider will enjoy.
Buying a second-hand superbike at half price or lesser might look like a sweet deal, but there are a few precautions you need to take. Cases of forged documents and illegal imports do exist with many unorganized players in this segment. Besides the price that can be negotiated, here's a short checklist of what you must do to ensure you get a fair deal. Ensure the paperwork is in order. Check for the exact age of the bike, registration, no objection certificates. Check condition with a test ride. Look out for issues with brakes, suspension to electricals. Cross-check service and insurance records. To calculate a fair price on these superbikes, one can apply a 8 to 10% annual depreciation to the current showroom price. The entry of new superbike brands in the country has reduced import of these bikes and made the pre-owned market space more transparent, with service records now available publicly. So do think before you click to ensure your dream ride doesn't become a nightmare.
That's pretty much it, folks. I hope you liked CNB this week. I've got a gorgeous view behind me and a great road ahead. That's the Susquehanna River Valley here in Pennsylvania. And if that isn't a sight for sore eyes for some of you, well then this certainly has to be. It's a beautiful little car, it drives pretty well, it's very sporty and it's brand new. So you got your first glimpse of it here on CNB. Please do wear your seat belts no matter which seat you're on in a car. Please do wear your helmets if you're on a two-wheeler, front or back. With that thought, as always, I will say goodbye. And a quick reminder for some of you who may have missed it last week, a chance for you to come spend some time with me and also with the BMW i8. Yes, it's a special opportunity for just a few of you. Take a look at the details of our contest that commemorates our 600th episode. With that, bye-bye.